Hello, teacher. Today, me and my group will talk about the most relevant inflationary periods in Chile during the 20th century. Introduction. Inflation decreases purchasing power, that is, when prices rise. Money has less value and therefore allows us to purchase fewer goods and services, especially harming the poorest. Unfortunately, inflation has been present in the history of our country, having important consequences, where the most affected are the citizens who throughout history have manifested themselves in different ways, producing important changes in the history of our country. What is inflation? Inflation is a phenomenon that is observed in the economy of a country and is related to the disorderly increase in the prices of most of the goods and services that are traded in its markets for a prolonged period of time. If we analyze it from the point of view of money, inflation makes money worthless. Money depreciates since at higher inflation, fewer goods and services can be consumed with the same amount of money. What causes inflation? Well, there are basically three causes. First one, the price of a product or service rises when the demand for it increases. For example, bus tickets on long weekends, as there are more people who want to travel by bus, its price goes up. Secondly, when the price of resources to manufacture a product rises, for example, if I have a bakery and the prices of flour goes up, I will have to raise the price of my cakes to keep making money. And thirdly, due to the increase in the monetary base, when the amount of money in economy increase, it causes the demand for product to increase faster than the supply of the goods and service in the supply, and this causes prices to increase. How is inflation calculated in our country? There are different methods to measure inflation, but the most common process is to express it as the percentage change in the CPI. The CPI, or Consumer Price Index, is calculated from the price of a family basket, which reflects the consumption of goods and services by a household. By measuring changes in the price of this basket, it is possible to estimate the magnitude of inflation in an economy. And here, the most important inflationary periods of our country. Well, during the 20th century, our country presented important inflationary periods. Below, we will carry out an analyzing of the most significant, which are, first, the post-war period, secondly, the period of industrialization, and thirdly, the period of the government of popular unity and the putsch.
The post-war period. Causes. Chile faced a severe internal crisis when the prosperity of saltpeter was suddenly ended during World War I as a result of the invention of synthetic substitutes by German scientists due to the English blockade of saltpeter to Germany. This caused the end of saltpeter works in the north of our country. Consequences. Exports of saltpeter and copper collapsed, causing serious consequences on the domestic economy, as tax revenues fell and reserves decreased. In 1931, the economic situation of the country was very deteriorated, and forced to suspend the payment of its foreign debt for the first time in history, on July 16 of 1931. Chilean society was strongly affected. Thousands of unemployed people walked the streets of cities and the fields. In Santiago, the government through the committees to help the unemployed, had to feed and house thousands of families. Common pots proliferated in the neighborhoods, and many people lived in caves in the hills surrounding the city. The period of industrialization. Causes. Another subperiod of high inflation was that of the government of Carlos Ibáñez del Campo between 1952 and 1958. The average annual inflation rate was 62% and reached 83.8% in 1955, the highest rate recorded in the history of Chile until then. The monetary sector was characterized by high increases in the money supply. These increases were concentrated in covering fiscal deficits and, to a significant extent, in satisfying the excess demand for bank credit from the private sector. Consequences. Faced with this severe inflationary crisis, the government, making a serious stabilization effort, hires a U.S. consulting firm, Klein Sachs, which recommended a harsh fiscal adjustment. The reduction in public spending caused widespread discontent, which was expressed in workers' strikes and student protests, in the face of which attempts to resort to political repression were useless due to the refusal of Congress to support it. The period of the government of popular unity and the putsch. Causes. With Salvador Allende, the popular unity came to power in 1970, with the project of establishing a people's state and a planned state-run economy. The economic plan consisted of a nationalization of the key areas of the economy, nationalization of large mining, expansion of the agrarian reform, freezing of the prices of basic necessities, and a sharp increase in salaries. At the beginning, the government decreed an average increase of 55% in salaries, since it was believed that companies had large profits, so that in this way a better distribution of income would occur. Consequences. Social spending caused a growing deficit in fiscal resources that the government tried to solve by issuing money. This generated an inflationary process that was aggravated by severe supply problems, hoarding, and corporate sabotage. This economic crisis manifested itself in triple-digit inflation. Contemporary calculations estimate that it reached 606%, the highest in Chile's history. All of the above was exacerbated by an almost total unemployment of the truckers, which was the epilogue of that government.
The Chaucha Revolution and its similarities with the social outbreak of October 18 in 2019. The Chaucha Revolution. It happened in Chile on August 16 in 1949. The government decided to increase the price of the collective locomotion ticket by 20 cents, from 1.4 pesos to 1.6 pesos. The students went out to protest in the streets of Santiago, supported by employees, workers, and housewives. It was a popular outbreak that had no head or visible leaders. People took to the street and the demonstration quickly caught up. The protesters demanded the reduction of the price of transport to 1 pesos, through the slogan Micros a un peso. Barricades were set up, stones set on fire, knocked down power lines, and overturned cars and buses. By order of the government of González Videla, carabineros and members of the army attacked the demonstrators disproportionately, leaving a balance of 100 wounded and an undetermined number of deaths. The social outbreak of October 18 in 2019.
As in the Chaucha Revolution, the trigger for this event was the increase in the ticket for the Santiago public transport system, which began on Sunday, October 6 in 2019. After the rate increased, thousands of high school students organized to carry out acts of mass evasion in the Santiago metro, in addition to demonstrations and riots which spread to all regions of Chile, with greater impact in the main cities, such as Valparaíso, Concepción, Arica, Iquique, Antofagasta, La Serena, Rancagua, Chillán, Temuco, Valdivia, Osorno, Puerto Montt, and Punta Arenas, developed mainly between October in 2019 and March 2020. Conclusion. As we have been able to know, inflation has always been present in the story of our country, which has been caused by various reasons, but they are always the common denominators of increase in surrounding money or increase in demand or increase in cost of goods and service. The different inflationary process that our country has suffered throughout its history have had a common trigger: the social explosion carried out through demonstration of different kinds, such as strike, protest, work stoppages, etc., generated by citizens tired by the continuous price rises of products, which strongly increase the cost of living. This is the linkography. Thanks for your attention.